Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Today is Wednesday, November 20th. We are one day out from Steelers Browns. Really looking forward to that one. I actually spent a couple hours in Cleveland yesterday, grabbed lunch out there, working on a story for A1 on Thursday about how much things have changed with the Browns. If you think back to last season, what they were doing, vibes were really good. And well, it's not quite that. Talk about that a little bit. Myles Garrett also had some interesting comments on TJ Watt. I'm going to weigh in on those. Want to talk a little Pirates and a question that I keep getting asked, but that's not the lead topic. The lead topic right now is Mike Sullivan and the Penguins and what the heck we are doing here. Something we've got into a little bit, but I want to go a little further this morning. First, want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with the insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, so let's talk Penguins. Through two periods last night, largely two periods, give or take, Penguins look pretty good, right? 2-0 lead over the Tampa Bay Lightning, a little bit surprising, honestly. And then the unsurprising part happened. They blow the 2-goal lead, lose 3-2 in overtime. This has happened a lot. They've blown 8 2-goal leads this season. 8 in 21 games. That's absolutely crazy. They've lost 5 of those games. The Penguins remain last in goals allowed, in goal differential. We continue to see the same problems. I feel like I've asked this question on this podcast before. I feel like I've written this column before. What exactly are we doing here? And watching Mike Sullivan after the game, leave the ice, his interactions with reporters, I almost feel bad for him. I do. I understand the frustration surrounding Sullivan and his job. And, anytime you tweet or say something about the Penguins, about Sullivan, it's instantly turned into fire the coach, get rid of him. It's all Sullivan's fault. Let's take a step back here and think about this. Try to think about it objectively. And I'm going to start with the thesis that I think Mike Sullivan is a darn good hockey coach. And I would challenge anybody to disagree with that. Now, I'm not saying he's the right coach, because at the end of it, I reached the conclusion that I don't see how they keep him employed. I think they should make a coaching change. But let's think through this logically. And again, what are we doing here? Sullivan ain't having a great time. We can see that. Anybody who continually tries to tell people under them, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to do it, and they just don't listen. I don't know whether the Penguins are unable to play a more responsible game with the lead, whether their confidence is that damaged. Other times it looks like they just don't, like they're trying to get the coach fired. I don't know, but it's not working. Repeatedly not working. And we are late enough into the season. Again, I've written this before. It's not a slow start. It's not just a bad pocket of games. This is what the Penguins are. Okay, well, at some point, we're going to need the intel to sort of inform other decision-making. And that leads up to the trade deadline. That's going to inform how to feel about Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, etc. What else you can do this season? Is it salvageable? I don't know. Does Erik Karlsson turn into a different player with a new coach, and does he suddenly become tradable? I don't have the answer to that question. Tristan, Jarry, Ryan Graves. I mean, you're looking at pieces here that if the Penguins would go into a full-scale rebuild, blow it up, completely change course, whatever, it would be nice to know what you have in those guys. Maybe they're tradable. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Is the problem just gigantic? Are they just this bad in perpetuity? I don't know. But I don't understand what the end goal is for keeping Sullivan employed, because you're saying he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. NHL? I mean, he is. I'm not disagreeing with you. Ironically, the Bruins job opened up recently. Would they hire Sullivan? Hire Sullivan back? I don't know. But it's an intriguing thing to think of. I don't think FSG would be dissuaded by the number of years and the value left on Sullivan's contract. They shouldn't be, given the size of the ownership group, but that's one way to take it off your hands, kind of pounce on that. It's just, I don't get what the end goal is here. I don't get what we're trying to accomplish. I don't get sitting back and thinking that this stuff is going to change. And I feel bad for Sullivan because he's going through it and because he's getting his name dragged around and people are overly critical of the guy like he isn't a very good hockey coach. He is. And at some point, you just have to say enough is enough for the team, for the fans, for the coach himself, and move in a different direction. By sitting on its hands, FSG is really only making this problem worse, and I don't understand why. All right, I'm going to take a short break, have some Steelers thoughts to get to, a little bit of Pirates on the other side, but first, a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Welcome back to First 10. I'm your host, Jason Mackey. We're here in the middle of the morning, Monday through Friday, talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Tomorrow will be the Q&A episode. Actually going to switch things around a little bit because I want to use Friday to talk about Steelers-Browns. And speaking of Steelers-Browns, I was over in Cleveland yesterday, went up there, over there, I should say, had lunch at the Winking Lizard, a great pregame, postgame spot for Browns games. It was excellent, by the way. I'd never eaten there, just been told about it, and talked to some Browns fans about the state of the team and what the heck has happened. That was my question for a number of them. You'll read that in tomorrow's Post-Gazette. But think back to the end of last season. Myles Garrett was the Defensive Player of the Year, which we'll talk about in a minute. I don't love what he said about TJ Watt. Kevin Stefanski was the Coach of the Year. They made the playoffs. They're riding high. Things are great. It didn't quite end up like that, clearly. The Browns are a 2-8 disaster. You have all kinds of stuff happen, and they have one of their offensive linemen made a business decision earlier in the year, sat out. Jameis Winston has been good, but I'm not sure he's been great or not beatable, I should say. And it's just been a whole mess of things. Trade, talking about firing the coach, firing the GM, what the heck is happening with Deshaun Watson, etc. And it has devolved pretty heavily into regular Browns territory. So talked to some Browns fans about that. I just realized the color of my hoodie probably is not befitting for that conversation, but ignore that. Didn't think about that until right now, I swear. So that'll be an interesting story to check out. As far as Steelers-Browns, curious to see a couple things. Can get into this a little bit more on the show tomorrow. The Justin Fields situation intrigues me. Hearing Arthur Smith's comments yesterday in Pittsburgh about how they use Arthur Smith, how they integrate him into the offense a little bit more. He said he doesn't necessarily want it to be a gadget thing, which I get. I think that's very smart. I was advocating for that on this show. I'd use Justin Fields to throw, use him to hand off, use him as a decoy. I think he could be just fine as a wide receiver. And I don't think you want to open it up too much. You want to allow the offense to, continue to find its rhythm. Obviously, that didn't happen last week against Baltimore, but how that unfolds with the Steelers needing to get better in the red zone, I think that's an area to focus on as well against the Browns. Not good against the Ravens. It has been kind of up and down with Russell Wilson, and it's odd, right? Because Russell Wilson has been very good in the red zone throughout his career. I'd expect some adjusted play calling. Talked about that a little bit the other day. Need to get Mike Williams involved. That's why you brought him in here, right? Need to get Pat Freiermuth more involved in that area. That's why you paid him, right? Throwing to Darnell Washington. Was Darnell Jefferson, I think, the program, right? Darnell Washington. Throwing to him is great. No problem. No problem seeing him evolve as a tight end. But you have certain guys on your team to do certain things. I'd like to see the Steelers use them a little bit more. The last thing, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. Man, did TJ Watt handle that so much better than Myles Garrett. I understand Myles was asked about, the sort of, how do you say it? The conversation surrounding TJ Watt getting snubbed for Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm not saying TJ Watt complaining about not getting Defensive Player of the Year, because I'm not sure I ever heard TJ say all that much. It was a lot of people talking on his behalf. And they were talking on his behalf because it made sense. Because he probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year. At minimum, it was a very good argument. I understand people that could make a case for Myles Garrett. It's not so much taking a shot at Myles Garrett, the football player. It's saying, like, if somebody disagrees with that decision, that's okay. I'm not sure you need to make a snide comment about, I've never complained about not winning it. Okay. All right. And then TJ Watt comes out there and says, I'm not competing directly against him. He's a great football player or whatever. I thought he came out very much on the top of that, looked like the much more classy human being. But also, none of that really matters because it will be discussed on the field on Thursday night in Cleveland. Looking forward to that. Thanks so much for watching First 10, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with the Q&A episode to get you a little bit more ready for Steelers Browns. And make sure you check out all of the content on this channel. Like and subscribe. You can get a whole bunch always happening here. And again, talk to you Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.